Ένα αρχαίο κοιμήλιο θαμμένο πολύ καιρό συγκλονίζει τον κόσμο.
This could really be an absolutely groundbreaking discovery.
Ένα θανάσιμο μυστικό από τα βάθη ταράζει τη φυσική τάξη.
We know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the bottom of the Pacific Ocean.
Παράξενα χαράγματα σε ένα από τα πιο αφιλόξενα μέρη του πλανήτη.
Then you see this otherworldly pattern.
Who or what made it?
Τα σημάδια οδηγούν σε μια πολύ μεγάλη ανακάλυψη.
No one's seen anything like this before.
Όπου κοιτάξουμε στον πλανήτη μας υπάρχουν στοιχεία του παρελθόντος. Στη φύση, σε κτίρια, σε κοιμήλια. Το καθένα κρύβει ένα μυστήριο που τώρα η επιστήμη μας επιτρέπει να δούμε από ψηλά. Ποια νέα μυστικά αποκαλύπτονται? Κάποια μυστήρια παραμένουν κρυμμένα για αιώνες και μόνο όταν κοιτάξουμε από ψηλά προς τα κάτω ακριβώς τη σωστή ώρα στο απολύτως σωστό μέρος αποκαλύπτονται επιτέλους για πρώτη φορά τα εκπληκτικά και απροσδόκητα μυστήριά τους, όπως στην καρδιά της καταπράσινης ανατολικής ακτής της Ιρλανδίας, μόλις 1 ώρα βόρεια του Δουβλίνου, όπου αρχίζει να αναδύεται ένα μυστήριο κρυμμένο για πολύ καιρό.
Never in my wildest dreams had I expected there to be anything to be seen.
Όμως το 2018 μια απροσδόκητη ανακάλυψη θα συνταράξει αυτό το ιδηλιακό τοπίο.
It was by sheer accident.
I caught a glimpse on the screen of markings in the field. You could immediately see the scale of it. Straight away, I had a feeling, I said, this is something extraordinary.
Με πλάτος 154 μέτρα κυριαρχεί στο τοπίο.
It's roughly the size of the Roman Colosseum.
This is massive. What could this function be?
Υπάρχουν δακτύλοι με εκατοντάδες κουκίδες γύρω τους. 2 από τους κατά τα άλλα τέτοιους κύκλους διακόπτονται σε ακριβή διαστήματα.
Each of those segments is like a pair, it's like an equal sign.
Και από πάνω υπάρχει ένα παράξενο τετράγωνο σχήμα.
It defies expectations, defies explanation.
Something that has been constructed on purpose for a particular reason. The biggest questions are, what is it? Who put it there and why?
Και γιατί χρειάστηκε ντρόουν για να βρεθεί?
The first thing I wonder when I'm looking at this site is how on earth was it not discovered earlier?
This site is on an active farm, and this has been farmland for hundreds of years.
And yet this thing is hidden for decades, centuries, maybe thousands of years.
Most years, you could walk that field 365 days of the year and never know there was anything special beneath the surface.
Όμως το 2018 ένα βασικό στοιχείο χάνεται από το τοπίο. Το νερό. Είναι η χειρότερη ξηρασία στην Ιρλανδία εδώ και 160 χρόνια.
If it hadn't been for the drought, it would still be a mystery beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed.
Αυτές οι μυστηριώδεις αποτυπώσεις έχουν όνομα.
It looks to be a crop mark. Crop marks are essentially signs of buildings that used to be on the land, but have since decomposed or been destroyed.
Αυτοί οι παράξενοι κύκλοι και τα χαντάκια είναι ενδείξεις από κάτι πολύ μεγάλο που είχε χαθεί χωρίς ίχνη μέχρι τώρα.
I found it hard to control the drone because I was actually shaking with excitement. There's no surface expression of this monument. That's the field right there. It's in there. A hologram, you know, not looking at physical remains. And so when you stand at the field today and you look out over it, you can't see any indication of a gigantic 500-foot wide circular monument. The remnants of it are actually beneath the ground. In my heart and soul, I knew this was archaeology.
So the question is, what exactly was built here and by whom?
Ίσως μια κοντινή πόλη δίνει κάποιο στοιχείο.
People have lived in this part of Ireland for centuries, and the nearest town to this mystery circle is Drogheda.
Και το πιο εντυπωσιακό χαρακτηριστικό της πόλης είναι μια πασίγνωστη στρατιωτική τοποθεσία, ένα αρχαίο κυκλικό όχυρο που δεσπόζει στην πόλη, το Millmount.
Millmount dates from the Norman invasion of Ireland in the 12th century, and you can see the Norman stone walls. And they're topped by this martello tower,
Μήπως οι παράξενοι κύκλοι είναι τα θεμέλια ενός ξεχασμένου νορμανδικού οχυρού?
But the Normans built stone fortifications, and there's no sign of any remaining stone at the site.
Ίσως το σχήμα του επιτρέπει συγκρίσεις με άλλες κυκλικές κατασκευές σε όλη την Ιρλανδία.
There are over 50 known henges in Ireland, and they date back thousands of years.
Κάποια ευθυγραμμίζονται αστρονομικά ή γεωγραφικά, άλλα είναι καθαρά τελετουργικά. Όμως, ένα πράγμα συνδέει πολλά από αυτά.
They often appear with standing stones within.
Οι πιο διάσημες όρθιες πέτρες είναι φυσικά το Stonehenge στην Αγγλία.
Ironically, Stonehenge isn't a proper henge because its ditch is on the outside, not the inside of its banks.
I mean, the funny thing about henges is there is no typical henge.
Σε αυτήν την πιο πρόσφατη τοποθεσία, που αποτελείται από 30 χωμάτινα χαντάκια, δόθηκε ένα φανταχτερό μοντέρνο όνομα. Stonehenge.
It's like an apparition of a long dead monument.
Μπορεί αυτή η νέα ανακάλυψη να αποτελεί απόδειξη μιας αρχαίας κατασκευής που συνδέεται με μια τοποθεσία μόλις 700 μέτρα μακριά. Το Newgrange.
Newgrange is a passage tomb that dates to 3200 BC.
Άρα είναι παλαιότερο από το Stonehenge και τις Αιγυπτιακές πυραμίδες. Και το σχέδιό του ευνοεί ένα γεωμετρικό σχήμα.
It's covered in beautiful megalithic art in which circular shapes feature heavily.
Το Newgrange και δύο άλλα αρχαία ταφικά μνημεία, το Nouth και το Douth, σχηματίζουν ένα μεγαλύτερο σύμπλεγμα που ονομάζεται Μπρουναμπόνια.
Built to commemorate and celebrate death in these cultures.
Αυτά τα ταφικά μνημεία και η εγκύτητά τους στο Stonehenge απαντούν σε κάποια ερωτήματα.
All the signs indicate that the newly discovered henge is part of the Neolithic Brunja site.
You don't construct this set of structures in connection with one another by chance.
Όμως, αν αυτά τα ταφικά μνημεία επέζησαν πάνω από 5.000 χρόνια, γιατί το Stonehenge ήταν ως τώρα εξαφανισμένο χωρίς ίχνος? Οι ειδικοί αναζητούν στοιχεία στον σχεδιασμό του.
To my eye as an archaeologist, it looks like an outer ring of two sets of post holes where something would have stood in the ground.
These post holes, which most likely were built to support timbers.
Μπορεί το Stonehenge να είναι το απομεινάρι ενός τεράστιου ξύλινου μνημείου. Το μέγεθος από τις τρύπες δίνει μία απάντηση.
Each of those is a meter or meter and a half wide and a meter and a half deep.
Judging from the size of the post holes, it would have required dozens of massive timbers of up to 15 tons each.
Όμως, πώς θα μπορούσαν οι νεολιθικοί άνθρωποι να φτιάξουν κάτι τόσο τεράστιο?
Bearing in mind, this is from a time when we only had stone tools.
Making such an incredibly strong, large structure with such precise geometry over 4,000 years ago is incredible. And then to see it completed must have been an absolute dream.
Και μια τυχαία ανακάλυψη προκαλεί τον ίδιο ενθουσιασμό 4.000 και πλέον χρόνια αργότερα.
It's kind of like hitting the jackpot. It's like checking your lottery ticket and finding you've won $1 million.
Όμως, γιατί κατασκεύασαν αυτό το φιλόδοξο έργο?
This would have been a major undertaking.
Και πού βρέθηκε το δυναμικό για να φτιαχτεί αυτή η τεράστια κατασκευή?
We know that individuals living in this area were no more than about 24 households. Now, that's not enough people to build this henge.
Ποιοι έχτισαν λοιπόν το Stonehenge και από πού ήρθαν? Μια δεύτερη τυχαία ανακάλυψη από ψηλά προσφέρει ένα ακόμη αναπάντεχο κομμάτι του γρίφου.
You could see the riverbed quite clearly, and I just happened to see this object. Looked distinct. I knew at that point, look, I'm not the only one excited about this.
Ο ποταμός Boyne συνδέεται εδώ και χιλιάδες χρόνια με ιστορικές και αρχαιολογικές ανακαλύψεις.
Just happened to see this object that looked like a rectangular timber object. And I said, that doesn't look like parts of trees and rubbish and tires that you see in the river.
And what else can wooden, rectangular objects in a river be? They've got to be boats.
Log boats are individual hollowed-out logs that we know have been found dating back to the Neolithic. They were the primary mode of transportation in and out of this valley.
Και ίσως έτσι έφτασαν εργάτες από μακριά στο πιο σημαντικό εργοτάξιο της εποχής, το Stonehenge.
Bearing in mind, Newgrange is 80 metres in diameter. This new henge is over double that size. A lot of people must have been involved in the construction of it.
Additional labor would have been required for these massive construction projects.
Γιατί όμως να ρισκάρουν για να φτιάξουν εδώ το ντρόουν henge? Μήπως η απάντηση βρίσκεται στα κοντινά ταφικά μνημεία του Μπρουναμπόνια?
They're essentially burial chambers for the elite, where rituals around death would take place.
Όμως μία κατασκευή δίπλα στο ντρόουν henge χτίστηκε μάλλον για τους νεκρούς.
There was one new feature discovered by the drone that has been called the four-poster site.
Τα στοιχεία υποδεικνύουν ότι είχε μια πολύ συγκεκριμένη λειτουργία. Την αποσάρκωση.
In archaeological terms, excarnation is the removal of flesh and organs of the dead prior to burial.
Όμως αυτό που βοηθά στη λύση του μυστηρίου είναι το τετράγωνο κουτί στην κορυφή του ντρόουν henge.
This has led some archaeologists to speculate that this was some sort of grand entrance into the interior.
Looking at the scale of this henge, this must have been a real focal point for all the communities around it.
It's very difficult to imagine such a monument without thinking about what humans have done for generations and generations. If you look at the modern similar buildings, what are they? Football stadiums, they're baseball stadiums, concert venues.
It could have served as an amphitheater or a marketplace or some kind of area where people could congregate.
It's highly likely there would have been a large crowd of people in there, and you probably would have heard lots of cheering and excitement.
Και αποδεικνύεται ότι η εκπληκτική ανακάλυψη του ντρόουν henge είναι μονάχα η κορυφή του παγόβουνου. Υπάρχουν κι άλλα αναπάντεχα μυστικά που θα αποκαλυφθούν από ψηλά.
A reassessment of this area from the air uncovered 21 additional previously uncovered archaeological sites. It's just phenomenal. It's like winning the lottery.
Και αυτή η συναρπαστική τυχαία ανακάλυψη αναθεωρεί ριζικά την ιστορία.
A single drone flight has prompted a complete revision of everything we thought we knew about one of the most studied archaeological landscapes on the surface of the planet.
But what this serendipitous drone finding is, they were just part of a much bigger, more sprawling landscape, which equally was dedicated to the living in this time.
I think the impact of the discovery hasn't completely been realized yet. That's going to go on for decades.
Μερικές φορές, για να ξεκλειδωθεί ένα μυστήριο, χρειάζεται απλώς λίγη τύχη. Αν βρεθείτε στο σωστό μέρος τη σωστή στιγμή με τα σωστά εργαλεία, αρχαία μυστικά μπορεί να αποκαλυφθούν τυχαία. Όπως εδώ, στη θανάσιμη καυτή έρημο Τακλαμακάν, στη βορειοδυτική Κίνα, κάτω από τη μεγαλύτερη οροσειρά της Κεντρικής Ασίας. Κάτι που ανακαλύφθηκε τυχαία θα αναδυθεί από αυτό το αλόκοσμο τοπίο.
This has got to be one of the harshest, most inhospitable places on Earth.
We're in a desert, literally in the middle of nowhere.
There are no towns, there's no other infrastructure, it's completely uninhabited.
It's a real place of extremes.
Όμως κρύβει κάτι εντελώς αναπάντεχο.
There's no sign of life anywhere. But then you see this otherworldly pattern.
It looks like a blueprint, just stamped there and abandoned.
It creates a total sense of mystery. If someone said to me, this is not from the planet Earth, I wouldn't be surprised.
Αυτό το σαν στοιχειωμένο θέαμα είναι εντελώς απροσδόκητο και εξέπληξε έναν επιστήμονα που το ανακάλυψε τυχαία. Το παράξενο σχέδιο εκτείνεται σε μια περιοχή όση ολόκληρο το Μονακό.
This whole site is absolutely massive.
Γιατί η έρημος εδώ είναι σκαλισμένη με τόσο αναπάντεχο τρόπο?
You can see ridges and curves and things, and that's really interesting.
Και στο κέντρο ένα σχήμα ίσο με 6 πισίνες ολυμπιακών διαστάσεων.
There seems to be what looks like quite a perfect circle.
What could have created this mystery pattern in the middle of the Chinese desert? What is it? Who or what made it? And what was it used for?
Μήπως η εντελώς μοναδική του θέση στον πλανήτη κρύβει κάποιες απαντήσεις?
The Taklamakan Desert is known as a death trap. I mean, it's got nicknames like Sea of Death or Place of Ruins. And if that's not bad enough, you've got local legends stating that you can get into the Taklamakan, but you'll never get out again.
Θα μπορούσαν αυτές οι ακραίες συνθήκες να προκαλέσουν κάτι τόσο αφύσικο?
It's possible that this is some sort of geological puzzle. These regular lines have appeared on the Earth's surface for some reason.
Maybe it's an old stream that ran from the mountaintop down into the lowlands. I mean, that makes sense.
Εκτός από ένα πράγμα, δεν υπάρχει ίχνος νερού πουθενά.
This landscape looks arid as far as the eye can see.
I mean, you can kind of put together the Kalahari, the Gobi, the American Southwest, and it's drier than all those places.
Όμως μια πιο προσεκτική ματιά αποκαλύπτει κάτι σημαντικό στο έδαφος. Μεγάλα βράχια.
At first glimpse, these just look like random boulders of natural geological sitting.
Όμως τίποτα εδώ δεν είναι φυσικό.
What seems apparent is that these rocks are not there, by accident.
There seems to be this angular shape. It's quite unusual, but there's a clear distinction between it and the surrounding area.
It's then arranged into that shape for a purpose.
Όμως ποιος είναι αυτός ο σκοπός?
But taking a closer look, there are clear partitions within this mound of boulders.
You can just about make up what looks like the basis of a structure, which to my mind suggests this could be the foundations or remnants of some sort of dwelling.
This is significant. It shows an element of activity on this site.
And if so, that indicates the hands of humans. And I've got to wonder who would make anything here.
Τι γυρεύει ένας αρχαίος οικισμός στη μέση της ερήμου Taklamakan?
This is one of the harshest places on Earth. It is not fit for human habitation.
Why would you want to live here?
Μία απάντηση ίσως βρίσκεται στα ανατολικά, στα μυστηριώδη ερείπια της αρχαίας πόλης Tsiaoha.
You can see these incredible remnants of ancient walls and structures, long since abandoned.
Κάποτε ήταν μία μεγαλόπρεπη πόλη, όμως σήμερα είναι μία σημαντική ιστορική τοποθεσία.
Why? Well, it's known as a major part of the planet's most significant ancient trade route.
The Silk Road was this incredible route used by merchants to transport and trade not only ordinary goods, but also revolutionary technologies from east to west.
Μήπως λοιπόν η τυχαία ανακάλυψη αυτού του αρχαίου οικισμού συνδέεται με το δρόμο του μεταξιού?
There has to be an enormous amount that we do not know about these people. Firstly, how do they survive?
And what about this mysterious set of lines right next to it? What exactly are they?
Συνολικά, η τοποθεσία περιέχει πάνω από 300 ηθελημένα σχήματα, το καθένα ίσο με μια Ολυμπιακή πισίνα.
It's clear that an incredible amount of effort went into building this.
Όμως γιατί να χτίσει κανείς στη μέση μιας αχανούς ερήμου? Κάτι εκπληκτικό που άφησαν δίνει μια παράξενη απάντηση. Αρχαίοι σπόροι.
Why would there be traces of ancient seeds in an area where crops absolutely cannot grow?
This area receives less than 60 millimeters of rain a year.
What's an agricultural field doing in the middle of a desert?
Where did they get their water from?
Ο μεγάλος κύκλος στο σχέδιο δίνει ένα στοιχείο.
What's immediately clear looking at this image is that it's human-made. It's far too perfect a circle to be natural.
Έχει ύψος 2 μέτρα και πλάτος τόσο που θα χωρούσε μέσα οριζόντιος ολόκληρος ο πύργος του Άιφελ. Ο κύκλος είναι μια τεράστια στέρνα ή ταμιευτήρας, σχεδιασμένος να χωρά ως και 350.000 λίτρα νερό.
But hardly any rain falls here. If this system was used to store water for the crops, where did they get the water?
Η μοναδική γεωγραφία κρύβει την απάντηση.
On one side, you've got the frozen Tian Shan mountains, which are obviously incredibly cold, and then you've got the Taklamakan Desert, which is of course incredibly hot.
Αυτή η αντίθεση επιτρέπει και στο ελάχιστο λιωμένο χιόνι να φτάνει στον ποταμό Μόχουτσαχάν και τη χειροποίητη στέρνα.
This is a sophisticated system of irrigation in a desert.
So many different layers of surveying and planning and design would have gone into creating the system.
Right in the middle of this really inhospitable environment, these people seized the chance that this little river offers, and they absolutely exploited it.
I think this is a really incredible feat of engineering, about 1600 years old. It's just mind-blowing.
Όμως θα μπορούσε αυτό το αρδευτικό σύστημα να μετατρέψει την άμμο της ερήμου σε πράσινα χωράφια.
They were a tiny community, and they could only do so much with this powerful new technology.
Συνδεόταν αυτό με το δρόμο του μεταξιού, βοήθησε να αλλάξει ο κόσμος.
This is the difference between life and death. No irrigation, no agriculture, no food, no life. Over.
Όλες οι ελπίδες βασίζονται σε αυτό το αχανές δίκτυο στην έρημο που θα αλλάξει τα δεδομένα.
This site is hugely significant as the first known in this region to be practicing artificial irrigation in this manner. I mean, it's astonishing.
Μεταμόρφωσε θαυματουργά την άμμο της ερήμου σε αρρώσιμο έδαφος.
And it begs the question, how were they able to do this?
Μια μυστική τεχνική διέτρεξε τον πρώτο μεγάλο διάβλο πληροφοριών στον κόσμο.
We think about the Silk Road as a trading network, but equally ideas traded hands, and that impacted every area that it passed through. I mean, it's almost incalculable.
This sort of system was a real game changer.
Κάθε χωράφι είναι φτιαγμένο για να παγιδεύει κάτι εντελώς αθέατο. Ίζημα.
Entrapping that precious sediment, it provides a necessary soil for crops to grow during the driest periods of the year.
It suddenly opens up a new world to them where they can survive and live and grow food and create settlements in places which previously humans thought was uninhabitable.
Και δεν επιβιώνουν απλώς.
If you look really close, you can start to see that there's something going on here.
You know, it's etched into one of the stones outside one of the homes.
It looks to be like there's these lines that form something quite close to what I see as a face.
And it's a human signature.
If you've got time to carve a face on a piece of rock, that means that you're starting to entertain each other. You know, this is a society that's getting literally richer in many ways. So I think it's terrifically exciting and shows that the community we're looking at was a success.
This is just people for whom this site was so important, not just as an irrigated farmstead, but it was home.
Οι επιστήμονες ονομάζουν την περιοχή MGK από τον ποταμό Μόχουτσαχάν, που της έδωσε ζωή πριν από περίπου 1600 χρόνια.
I'm really taken aback by the scale of ambition that was shown by these engineers, that they decided and could even dream that they would be able to create an irrigation system with water and create agriculture in the middle of what looks like an extremely barren desert.
Η ζωτική σημασία καινοτομία τους στις μεθόδους καλλιέργειας αλλάζει την πορεία των ανθρώπινων οικισμών. Σήμερα, ολόκληρες πόλεις στις Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες, στη Μέση Ανατολή και σε όλο τον κόσμο οφείλουν την ύπαρξη και την επιβίωσή τους στην καλλιέργεια της ερήμου.
We learned agriculture from them. One of the great things about looking at the earth from above is that when you start kind of peering down, you start to learn so much about humanity and our history.
Είναι γνωστό ότι κάποιες τυχαίες ανακαλύψεις άλλαξαν εντελώς την ιστορία. Και μερικές φορές η μοίρα δίνει τα ηνία στους πιο απίθανους ανθρώπους. Χιλιάδες χιλιόμετρα μακριά από την έρημο Τάκλαμακάν, σε ένα ήσυχο χωριουδάκι της Αγγλικής Υπαίθρου, ένα θαμμένο από καιρό μυστικό δεν μπορεί πια να κρυφτεί.
Google Earth completely changes the game.
Και για δύο βετεράνους κυνηγούς μετάλλων, αυτή η σύγχρονη θέα από ψηλά αποκαλύπτει κάτι εντελώς αναπάντεχο.
I looked at Google Earth and it was quite clear that there was something worth investigating.
Δεκάδες παράξενες γραμμές χαραγμένες σε έναν αγρό.
I find this image really perplexing. I look at it and I sort of go, this makes no sense.
The shape of it seems crude, the pattern unusual. But what is it? And why is it here?
Και στην άλλη πλευρά του αγρού κάτι ακόμα πιο παράξενο.
You can see clear rectangular shapes and deeper ditch-like paths.
It looks like this really weird puzzle, with great big chunks of the earth being fitted together, frankly not very well. Nothing about this looks natural.
Ένα μυστήριο που θα αποκαλύψουν οι κυνηγοί μετάλλων.
You want the site where there's potential.
Όμως μπορεί να βρεθεί τίποτα αξίας σε αυτήν την ισταλέα αγγλική ύπαιθρο.
The first thing that comes to my mind when I look at this pastoral site is, oh, it's beautiful and it's very peaceful. It certainly doesn't say to me, there must be treasure buried here.
Αν όμως υπήρχε, πώς θα τον βρίσκαμε?
Finding anything of real value with metal detectoring is like finding the tiniest needle in about 100,000 haystacks. It almost never happens.
Να ελπίζει ποτέ κανείς ότι θα βρει κάτι σημαντικό.
When you do this, you never once think that you'll ever find a life-changing anything.
No, I know.
You don't. It's just not, it doesn't cross your mind at all, does it?
Όταν πρόκειται για θαμμένο θησαυρό, πρώτα προσπαθείς να μικρύνεις το πεδίο έρευνας.
You'd look on those aerial photographs and see if there's anything that draws your attention straight away.
Like a fisherman would look at water, he'd try and read the lake, see where the fish are. Well, we do the same with the field.
Μα τι μπορεί να σημαίνουν αυτά τα σημάδια?
You'd never guess it looking at this today, but this place has seen a lot of action.
It could really be anything from ancient history to the Tudor era. Until you start looking on the ground, you just don't know.
We had to go and have a look.
Όμως μια γρήγορη έρευνα προσφέρει ένα στοιχείο.
There's one book that has the most complete survey of a pre-industrial society anywhere in the world. And that's the Doomsday Book.
In the Doomsday Book, there were 12 known homes documented.
That one detail pulls you to that area.
These are signs of a deserted medieval village.
This is a street.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's a house there, and there's a house there.
Yeah.
These people would have been working the land which was probably owned by someone rich and powerful.
Και αυτή η απροσδόκητη γενεαλογία αυτού του χωριού αλλάζει τελείως τα δεδομένα.
William the Conqueror's brother-in-law was the Bishop Odo of Bayeux, and he owned a lot of this land.
Μήπως κάποιος αρχαίος βασιλικός θησαυρός περιμένει να ανακαλυφθεί?
When you've got headphones on, you can hear distinct sounds.
The bigger the item, the bigger the sound is.
Με τα στοιχεία από το Google Earth και αυτά της ιστορίας, οι κυνηγοί θησαυρού έχουν πολλές ελπίδες.
Approaching a field with a metal detector, you think you're going to find treasure straight away. It's not that simple.
It was very, very quiet. All we'd found around the whole field was a musket ball. We had decided to actually leave the field. Oh. I'm getting a signal. I walked directly onto a large signal. That's quite deep. That's when the magic happens.
Well, there it is. I said, how big's the signal? And he said, well, it's as big as a dustbin lid, which I found unbelievable.
Όμως, τι ακριβώς είναι θαμμένο εδώ?
I was on my hands and knees, bringing the soil out of a hole.
How deep?
I looked in the hole and found what I thought to be a piece of corroded aluminium. Now, corroded aluminium means modern, means some rubbish. But I realised it wasn't aluminium because it was heavy.
That's the sides. What's that?
And I could see a shiny round object facing the sky above me.
What is it?
And I leaned down and got closer, and I could also see lots of small grey round shapes all around that one shiny one.
It's a coin, isn't it?
Bloody coin.
Wow, look at that. It's fabulous, isn't it?
Thousands of coins neatly buried. It's unbelievable.
Look at them.
Είναι ένας σωρός νομίσματα.
In archaeological terms, a hoard is a stock or store of money, one that is secret or carefully guarded.
I've been metal detecting for 40 odd years. You find many things, several coins sometimes in a hole, in one hole, a pair slots. You very rarely find hoards. When you find something like this, there's always lots of questions going through your mind. How did it get here? Why is it here? And who was carrying it that day?
It could be a whole chest on it.
Συνολικά είναι 5.252 ασημένια νομίσματα.
Be careful, because some of them are really brittle. Yeah.
Most hoards are roughly about 20 to 50 in number. That would be a big hoard. So for there to be this many is unheard of.
There's some serious cash down there.
At the time the hoard was buried, the coins would have been an immense amount of money, worth probably millions.
Πώς βρέθηκε ένας αληθινός θησαυρός θαμμένος σε έναν αγρότη της Αγγλικής Υπαίθρου?
The biggest questions are who put it there and why.
Κάτι άλλο, επίσης θαμμένο, δίνει ένα προσδόκητο στοιχείο.
A sheet of lead, be about 20 inches long by about 10 inches wide and domed across the top.
Τα νομίσματα είναι θαμμένα στο αρχικό μολύβδινο κουτί τους. Είναι ένας συγκεκριμένος τρόπος φύλαξης. Κάτι παρόμοιο βρέθηκε στη Βόρεια Αγγλία το 2011.
One really good example would be the Silverdale hoard. Coins and jewelry were found buried in a lead casket. There were 200 coins there, and that of course made it one of the largest Viking hoards ever discovered in the UK.
Μπορεί και ο σωρός νομισμάτων του Ленборо να είναι ένας μυστικός θησαυρός των Viking?
We have to take a closer look at the coins. If they're in good condition, they might tell us when they're from.
Δύο από τα πρόσωπα στα νομίσματα αποκαλύπτουν μία προέλευση, μα όχι από τους Viking.
These are Anglo-Saxon era coins from the first half of the 11th century. The king on those coins is Ethelred.
Ethelred took the throne at a very young age.
And when he was on the throne, England was being constantly raided by the Vikings. What does any invader want? Money.
Τι κάνει λοιπόν κάθε λογικός βασιλιάς?
Taxes are collected from all over the country and then sent to the Vikings in order to stop them from attacking.
Μπορεί το έβριμα του Ленборо να είναι μια χαμένη δωροδοκία προς τους Viking εισβολής?
What makes it more curious is the king on the rest of the coins.
Ο βασιλιάς Κανούτος, μετά το θάνατο του Έθελρεντ, κατακτά όλη την Αγγλία, τη Δανία και την Νορβηγία.
Canute's leadership ends 40 years of attacks on English soil and leads to an entire new era of prosperity.
This king is not looking for money or protection.
Αν τα νομίσματα δεν είναι εξαγορά προς τους Viking, τι είναι?
The coins are stamped with the names of the mints, where they've been made. And the information is astounding.
The money was gathered from 40 mints across the country.
Όμως ποιος τα συγκέντρωσε και γιατί?
In times of peace, it's far easier for money to circulate through trade.
Μπορεί να τα έθαψε κάποιος πλούσιος γεωκτήμονας.
I can imagine someone hiding their family's wealth just in case things take a turn for the worse.
Όμως ένας παλαιότερος αγγλικός νόμος προσφέρει μια άλλη εξήγηση.
At the time, older coins had to be taken out of circulation and returned to the mints to be recast.
But you'd expect that coins destined to be melted down and recast would make it to their destination.
Οι ειδικοί ίσως δεν μάθουν ποτέ ποιος έθαψε τα νομίσματα, όμως ξέρουν πότε συνέβη.
Analysis suggests that this money is buried around 1035 AD.
Οι ειδικοί εκτιμούν την αξία του σε 1,35 εκατομμύριο λίρες, πάνω από 1,5 εκατομμύριο ευρώ. Και ο αντίκτυπος αυτής της απροσδόκητης ανακάλυψης ξεπερνά τα νούμερα.
The historic importance is far more important than the monetary value. So I had an inkling of what Howard Carter felt like when he discovered Tutankhamun's tomb. Now, obviously, that's not quite the same. My name will always be attached to the Ленборо hoard. I feel quite proud of that.
Αναπάντεχα ευρήματα μπορούν να αλλάξουν την αντίληψή μας για το παρελθόν, όμως κάποιες ανακαλύψεις από ψηλά προκαλούν τις βαθύτερες πεποιθήσεις μας και μας συγκλονίζουν. Όπως στη δυτική ακτή των Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών. κατά μήκος της ακτογραμμής της Νότιας Καλιφόρνιας, στο σύνορο με τον μεγαλύτερο και βαθύτερο ωκεανό στον κόσμο.
When you think about the Pacific Ocean, you're talking about something unfathomably large.
Ένας σκοτεινός κόσμος με βάθος σχεδόν 11.000 μέτρα που καλύπτει σχεδόν το 1/3 του πλανήτη.
It shrouds so much mystery in its depths.
We know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the bottom of the Pacific Ocean.
Όμως μια αναπάντεχη πτήση ντρόουν θα ξαναγράψει μια αρχαία ιστορία από τα βάθη.
It's a day I will never forget.
Οι ηλιόλουστες παραλίες είναι κατάμεστες.
This isn't some remote island. This is Southern California. Millions of people go to the beach every single year.
Προσελκύει όμως και επισκέπτες από τα βάθη.
There's this shadowy presence underwater.
Μία καλύτερη παρατήρηση από ψηλά αποκαλύπτει έναν καρχαρία. Όμως τι είδους? Ξέρουμε ότι σε αυτά τα νερά ζουν πάνω από 34 είδη.
Most of them are pretty benign. You've got thresher sharks, you've got tiger sharks, bull sharks.
Και ο πιο τρομερός θηρευτής του ωκεανού.
I saw a great white shark. The fin, dorsal fin, caudal fin, clearly a great white shark.
Όμως αυτό που σοκάρει είναι ότι αυτή η φωνική μηχανή δεν είναι μόνη.
We're seeing one, then another, then another.
Αυτό που καταγράφει το ντρόουν φαίνεται σαν εισβολή μεγάλων λευκών.
I actually found 32 sharks within a quarter mile of each other. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Αυτό που φαίνεται από ψηλά είναι αθέατο από την παραλία.
These people have no idea that something that big is that close.
The fact that they're so close to shore and so close to people, it is scary.
What I'm looking at here really troubles me.
Αυτοί οι θηρευτές από τα βάθη είναι έτοιμοι να επιτεθούν.
That to me looks like the image of a shark that's on its way to get its lunch.
Πόσο ακριβώς κινδυνεύουν αυτοί οι άνθρωποι?
We've all seen Jaws and we all know what happens next.
Places with more people have more shark attacks.
Όμως πώς φτάσαμε να τους θεωρούμε τέρατα?
We have a love-hate relationship with great white sharks. If you're swimming at the beach, you realize very quickly that you are in their domain. And especially if you're at the surface, because you can't see what's below you. And there's that mystery, that unknown, that is as frightening as the shark itself.
Τουλάχιστον μέχρι ο καρχαρίας να μας βάλει στόχο.
It sneaks up very quietly, very smoothly on the thing it's going for.
They will launch themselves at full speed directly from below. One of the very few creatures on planet Earth that is not only capable of killing a person, but killing and eating a person. A great white has serrated teeth like a steak knife. And they're capable of killing you in one bite.
Every single thing about them is perfectly built for this hunting.
To deliver this devastating attack, and then it'll circle around and finish the job.
They are perfect hunting machines.
Human beings really aren't very good at swimming. You can forget all those gold medals you see at the Olympics. The truth is, we're rubbish at it. Compare us to a fish, compare us to a seal, and we are just these hopelessly floundering packets of meat, really tempting targets for sharks.
Και μία ακόμα πτήση ντρόουν εντόπισε μόλις έναν πιθανό στόχο. Παιδιά.
What's really incredible about this footage is that when you first see it, it makes you more scared.
I was really nervous about seeing a white shark next to a child. I tell you, my heart was pounding.
Can you imagine your children being in the water with these perfectly designed killing machines?
Oh my God, is this shark about to attack these kids?
I didn't really understand how many sharks there were in the water until I started flying my drone on a regular basis.
Και αυτήν τη φορά κινδυνεύουν παιδιά.
These are kids that have no clue that there's a shark there.
It's a totally terrifying concept.
The view from above is very different from the view right on the top, like right on the surface. You cannot necessarily see sharks around you.
Επίκειται όμως επίθεση.
Everything we think about sharks is that they just attack on sight.
Όμως επιτίθενται πάντα οι καρχαρίες όταν μας συναντούν.
Everybody talks about the movie Jaws and acts like that's where we started getting worried about sharks. The truth is, we've been scared of sharks for a lot longer than Steven Spielberg's been alive.
Η παλαιότερη απόδειξη για άνθρωπο που υπήρξε θύμα επίθεσης καρχαρία βρέθηκε στην Ιαπωνία.
Now, this 3,000-year-old skeleton was marked with some 790 gruesome gashes and puncture wounds. I mean, that's just complete destruction.
Και το 1916 στην ακτή του Νιου Τζέρσεϊ, 4 κολυμβητές σκοτώνονται. Μάλλον από επίθεση μεγάλων λευκών καρχαριών.
If you got 4 people being killed by sharks in one day, then that news is going to travel around the world really quickly. You know, the telegram has been invented. That's going to give sharks a really bad press.
Γεννιέται ο φόβος για τους καρχαρίες. Μα σύντομα δεν είναι μόνο φόβος. Και όλοι οι καρχαρίες νιώθουν τον αντίκτυπο.
There were a lot of incidences of people unfairly hunting for these great white sharks. It really hurt the numbers of sharks that were out there.
Ως τη δεκαετία του 1970 το 80% των μεγάλων λευκών εξολοθρεύονται από την επαγγελματική αλληλεία με δίχτυα.
The numbers were going down for a long time and getting perilously low.
Σήμερα όμως το βίντεο του ντρόουν δείχνει μια διαφορετική εικόνα.
There's an ecological success story that's happening with the great whites of Southern California.
Sharks' populations are going up.
That's because of conservation, that's because of protecting the fisheries.
Περιέργως το 2020 οι επιθέσεις ανά τον κόσμο μειώθηκαν για τρίτη συνεχή χρονιά.
So the big question is, why aren't more people being killed by sharks?
Because there are so many sharks, you would expect there to be a lot of attacks, but there just isn't.
Η απάντηση αποκαλύπτεται στη μοναδική εικόνα από ψηλά. Μια επιστημονική βόμβα. Οι καρχαρίες δεν επιτίθενται.
What you see with this drone is that the humans and the sharks are very close together and nothing bad happens. And that's really interesting.
Οι επιστήμονες δεν ξέρουν ακόμα γιατί επιτίθενται ή δεν επιτίθενται οι καρχαρίες, μα ένα είναι ξεκάθαρο.
The sharks pretty much don't care that the humans are nearby. Typically, they'll just back off.
That is a paradigm shift, that sharks don't necessarily attack every time they sense a human being in the water anywhere near them.
I'm getting more and more used to the fact that these sharks have always been there. The only difference is that my drone is able to see them from above now. You know, the most important thing I think people should take away from watching the videos is that the sharks, that's their home, and that we must respect their home, and that we must be aware that they are there.
Does that make me more comfortable to go for a swim next to my local cuddly great white? Probably not. I don't think it's going to alter our behavior overnight, but I think it is important to recognize that maybe sharks like the great white get a terribly bad press, and maybe it's not entirely deserved.
These animals, they predate the dinosaurs, and yet we're still learning new things about them even today.
Από τα αγροτικά τοπία της Ευρώπης ως την έρημο της Μογγολίας και τα βάθη του ωκεανού, μια τυχαία ματιά από ψηλά μπορεί να ανοίξει το δρόμο για την αποκάλυψη απροσδόκητων μυστικών και τη λύση εκπληκτικών μυστηρίων.